So hello everyone, I am Claude Chevalier and I will be the first speaker for this webinar, including three speakers. So I help you discover the market. I assist financial services companies in their go-to-market. Our client solutions team provides free and financial services associated with the setup of a subsidiary in the Paris region. So do not hesitate to ask questions via the system now and during the webinar to make it live, because it will end with a Q&A session. So here's our agenda today. So we'll see the first financial hub in the EU and the focus on banks and neobanks, and a vibrant financial cluster with VC funding. Then the upcoming financial events in Paris and Fintech accelerators to jumpstart your business. So followed by the Swave and finally the Speedinvest VC presentation, and followed by 15 minutes Q&A session. So the Paris region is a leading global financial hub in the EU, and the French market is one of the most attractive in Europe in terms of opportunities, availability of capital, and regulatory environment. And on top, you have access to the first employment pool in finance in the EU. So don't forget that 4 French banks are in the EU top 10. France is a second market for asset management in the EU, with 4,000 billion euro capitalization in asset management. And finally, insurance is important too. We have big players, and it's the second market in the EU. So now we'll launch a quick poll. Is it ready, Thomas? Quick poll on its way?
Yes, the question is shown. With how many startups has Société Générale a partnership agreement? Please select one of the answer, and we will show the results. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And the results are, people guess that, the majority of people guess that there are 750 fundings. So what is the real answer, Claude?
750. Okay, so let's switch to the next slide. Three players are so we'll focus now on the neobanks market. So neobanks in France count over 3 million active users. It's multiplied by 3.5 compared to 2017. So 3 neobanks are capturing 80% of the French neobank market. So there are altogether 20 neobanks at present in France. So Nickel, the first one, is owned by BNP Paribas with 1.6 million users. So German N26, 1 million users, and Revolut from Britain, close to 1 million. And they are very innovative and prone to collaboration with international fintechs, much more than the traditional banks. And so their low-cost model explain their success and will grow despite a big concentration on the 3 top players. So now we can speak about our main partner for the Paris region is Finance Innovation. So it's a vibrant cluster with about 500 members. And so they address the opportunities in the financial ecosystem. They make recruitment easy with their job board partner, Doc Finance, and they are able to connect fintechs with international fintechs, with French banks, insurance, and asset managers. Usually we organize a call or a meeting, face-to-face meeting, a 1-hour face-to-face meeting with new fintechs arriving in France. So it's part of our tour to discover, and they work on a membership system. So there's a special rate for fintechs, and they are eager to add new members from abroad. So VC funding is now abundant to disrupt models. Indeed, fintechs can rely on an increasing number of venture capital funds. Truffle Capital, for instance, are managed by Bernard Louis Roch for the fintech portfolio. So we've done joint session with them, and they made 9 investments in fintechs. So Briga Capital is as well active in France with 11 investments in fintechs. New Alpha, it's a big partner of the Swave incubation deal in La Défense, and they have 10 investments in fintechs. But the largest French VC is Kima Ventures. So they are considered the most active. They have 100 fintechs in their portfolio. They are backed by the telco and media entrepreneur, Xavier Niel. So they focus on seed and Series A investment and invest in dozens of startups every year. And for instance, Jean de la Roche-Brochard oversees hundreds of startups investment, and which means he has his finger on the pulse of the tech ecosystem in France and even across Europe, because they do a lot of deals with European fintechs. So another big player is Plug and Play Ventures. We know quite well because we assisted them when they located 3 years ago. It's a VC out of Sunnyvale, California. So the practice is led by Cedric Vallée and Gabriel Inzerillo, and they have their portfolio about 170 fintechs. And just to give you an idea, they participated in deals totaling 335 million euro last year, worldwide, of course. And so that included 488 seed rounds and 93 Series A rounds. So we know them quite well, so it's not a problem to organize reach outs with them if need be. So Xange is a much smaller VC. It's a French VC, and they have invested, for instance, in Ledger, Vault for cryptos, or Fidor Bank in Germany. So Partech is big in terms of investment. They take quite big tickets, and we assisted them in when Cambridge Blockchain out of the MIT in Boston decided to open their first facility in Europe, in West Paris, located at the Partech Shaker, which is a digital accelerator in Paris for all digital projects, not only fintechs. And of course, to finish, the big banks play as corporate VCs, BNP Paribas, Société Générale, BPCE, and Crédit Agricole. So the top 4 are also looking for investment in international fintechs with significant upside potential. So there is a second quick poll for you that can be launched by Thomas.
Yes, and now that you you have shown this list of investors, the question is how many million euros were raised by French fintechs in the first half of 2020? So you have some seconds to answer and select your answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I close. And the answer is, I let you comment it, Claude. The majority of people said it was 496 million. Is it true?
It is true. For the first half of 2020. So this amount of money, almost €500 million, was invested in French fintechs, which is an increase of about 12% compared to the first half of 2019. So despite the COVID, which is not bad and quite surprising for some observers. So now we'll move to the last quick poll.
Here it is.
Last questions.
Which segment was the most successful in the funding raised by French fintechs in the first half of 2020? Is it neobanks, payments, or insurtech? You have 5 seconds to answer. 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go.
And the answer is payments. So payments.
Most of the participants thought it was insurtech.
Oh no, insurtech came in number 3 in terms of segments of investment in the first half of this year. So maybe I can explain. So Conto made a huge raise round of investment with above 104 million euros. So it's a new bank for professionals. And Tencent from China was one of the big investors in this round, but not only. And Alan was as well a case of insurtech, but came number 3. So yeah, usually payments is number 1. I want to mention Laplace. So it's one of our partners and a partner of many big players of the ecosystem. Why Laplace? Because it's Laplace FinTech is a way to communicate very inexpensively, because you can book meetings there for free, provided we are registered, and you can organize meetings with other fintechs there, for instance, a French and a German, a French or UK fintech. And so that's quite a good way to communicate, and you can plug on the frequent initiatives. So now let's move on to the financial events we can have. So the first one in September will be big data. It's in fact the merge between big data and AI event on the 14th of September. So they expect 20,000 attendees, which is quite huge, and it covers every sector, but of course finance is one of them. Then it's followed by Climate Finance Day at the end of October. So it's a huge international conference on sustainability. And as you know, Paris is very well positioned in Europe on the green finance. And FinTech community is one of the local events, mostly in French, where you have about 1,000 attendees of FinTechs and mostly French, but you have one international track for the European project like Infinitech. So regarding Paris Fintech Forum will be next year, but the date is not set. So it's well known. It's by far and large the best to do it, and to attend. I mean, and I recommend it heavily. And Viva Technology, the Paris Blockchain Week will be in December, and it's a great event on digital assets and blockchain. So regarding accelerators now, let's switch to accelerators. So here's a map of the main accelerators welcoming fintechs. So you have, we can start with the BNP Paribas plug and play. So it's an accelerator focused on industrialization. That means they are quite eager to convert the POC, the proof of concept, into industrialization with the business unit of BNP Paribas, which is a customer. And so this runs for 3 months. And so surprisingly, it's completely free of charge for the fintech selected. And you are connected to several business units and to do this proof of concept. And you are supported by the plug and play team in Paris, which is at Station F. So I recommend this plug and play incubator. So why we are innovation? So it's an acceleration program which can last much longer, up to 24 months. And you can have business connections to BNP customers. So that means thousands of them, mostly medium-sized companies. And they have 1,600 meters office space available. And they support in seed financing, banking support. And then Le Plateau by Société Générale, it's located in the Dunes complex. They host external startups full-time for 6 months. So it's not a big place, but it's a possibility to join them. So I know a Swiss company who was selected to join them. And so you have to know it's in Val de Fontenay. So then the Swave offers an attractive incubation deal. It will be, I'll give the mic to Edouard very shortly to present. And if you want to meet me in the following months, I'll attend the Money 2020 conference in Amsterdam in September, and which is a live event, I mean a physical event, and the Fintech Connect at the end of the year in December. So is my contact details, and I give the mic to Edouard for the presentation.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Claude. Let me just take a few seconds to start sharing my screen with you guys. Thanks for having me, Claude, in Choose Paris region. Just trying to switch. Can you just confirm, you guys, that you are actually presently seeing my screen?
Perfect.
Yes, that's good.
We see your screen, yeah, quite well.
Okay, super cool. So I'm Edouard Plus. I'm the Executive Director of Paris & Co's Corporate Solutions. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what Paris & Co is and what Le Swave is, because Claude mentioned it a little bit, but I think it's good for you to have a tiny bit of information to know what we can offer you, and so that you can ask questions at the end of the meeting. Just to give you a brief overview for myself, I'm the founder of Le Swave. Previously, I was myself a fintech entrepreneur, created a business called Beyond Ratings that was sold to the London Stock Exchange Group last year, actually. So literally when I was asked by Paris & Co to design an acceleration program, I literally put in there with my team made of entrepreneurs and also everything that we didn't have when we were willing to thrive, to have our business thriving a few years back. So just in a few words, so Paris & Co, brief description. Paris & Co is actually a non-for-profit organization which aims on the economic development and innovation in Paris and in the Paris region. We have a business of accelerating and incubating startups. Every year we incubate between 400 and 400 projects, different projects. We create, to do so, specific platforms that have a specificity, that is, we are multi-corporate. We work with different type of actors on fintech. We're going to see who they are, but literally banks, payment specialists, consultancies, so on and so forth, insurance, you name it. And so we work by practices. Obviously, I'm going to only speak about fintech today, and we're a non-for-profit organization, which is actually a very important deal for you if you're an entrepreneur. It means we do not take equity, and on the global scale, this is something that is quite interesting to know because it's a non-dilutive part of the business. So a few key figures. All in all, the agency itself counts more than 100 corporate partners. This is last year's figure, so we're a tiny bit higher this year. The startups we accelerated, and the projects we supported, accelerated. We led also urban experimentations, and we host foreign projects for short-term periods. If you so wish, if you're foreign entrepreneurs, you can apply to our program called the Paris Lending Pack, literally, which is free of charge. If you want to test the French market for 1 month, try to meet with our ecosystem and just make your mind whether you want to settle in France or if it's not the right market for you. Obviously, we hope that is. A little bit of our different specialties. So you can see that Le Swave is only part of a global galaxy. We're also active on tourism, sports, food tech, healthcare, digital publishing, circular economy. I'm not going to go through all the 12 programs we have. Located in different places, we cover the entire Paris metropolitan area. And a few slides about our corporate partners. I named 102, they're not all there, but I will go further for fintechs. Institutional partner, which is something quite interesting to know because it opens many doors, literally. Paris & Co is an association that was started on behalf of public authorities. So the city of Paris required us and detached people to actually start this agency. So we're partially funded by the city of Paris, by the region also, by the government, which is interesting to know in terms of fintech. It's coming directly from the Ministry of Economic Affairs. And so we're working closely also with the regulators, for example, which is also a huge differentiators for us. They are part of our governance. So obviously, given we're in regulated business areas, when you want to go a tiny bit quicker, it's always easier to have an office on your workspace where you can meet directly with the regulator, and this is something we can offer, for example. A few words on Le Swave. So we're meant to connect the French fintech ecosystem. As you can see, very complex graphic or galaxy, literally. Le Swave is the accelerating program of something a tiny bit bigger that is called the European Fintech Hub, that is going to come public in a few months. So what I'm telling you right now is a bit of a preview. The point is we want to address different type of business sizes, from the small startup to the scale up. We are actually and presently accelerating one of the biggest fintech in Europe, #1 in the Fintech 50 ranking on FIDO from the UK. And what we realized, I mean, it was not sort of a big surprise, is at some point you have a small startup, you want to make it bigger, you're going to need to be able to be connected to the academics and research just to actually just improve your product, and also recruitment and connection to talent pool is key. So we are working with top universities, ESSEC, HEC, MBAs, class, Paris Dauphine University and Sorbonne University for research, and Polytechnic, which is an engineering school, so that you can actually find new young brains to help you thrive or get new ideas. As I say, you also need at some point to be close to the regulators. So we have an open door policy for the regulators that are coming every month for 1 or 2 full days to be able to audit your products and your solutions. If you need to get a license, credit license, payment license, for example, so you can be meeting with the ACPR and AMF, or 2 main regulators on site. And last but not least, if you're looking for some kind of representation, you want to connect with other fintechs, we have fintech that are hosted here, we have fintech that are accelerated here, but there's also a bigger fintech community in France. As Claude said, you've got about, let's say, to round it up, 400 to 450 fintech and insurtech in France at the time being. They are part of organization. Claude, you mentioned finance innovation. You also have France Fintech, which is the biggest association of French fintech on land. It's important for us to be connected to this pool. We are actually hosting France Fintech in our workspaces. It's important to be connected at some point because we need, as an ecosystem, a representation not only in France, but obviously everywhere in Europe. And this is a key point. And being able to gather, to represent something, to lobby a bit sometimes as well, based on the in past times, I would mention the DSP2, for example, and all the logics on open banking industry, well, was only possible because people were able to sit around the table and to speak for the fintech sector, and not only in the name of the big banks, for example. So that's kind of the things we provide. Well, you get into the Swave, you can access all of this. How does it work? How does it work? It's pretty easy. So we have an acceleration program that is meant to host at any given time about 50 startups. 50 startups, which is 1/8 of the French ecosystem, and technically we're also addressing international market and international target. We do have, and I will give you the slides to Claude so they can send it to you if you want to. We're not going to run through all of this, but the idea is Paris & Co is running a workspace, creating an acceleration program where you can find everything you need. We are monitoring the financial innovation for our partners, and which is important to understand is we recruit startups. That's very an important part. There is actually a harsh selection at entry. So we take only every year about 10 to 20 projects that we want to be accelerated very thoroughly. And this is only possible because the selection is organized by us via the needs of our corporate partners. So we design actually the themes of our recruitment every season based on the needs of large corporations and institutions that are going to be willing to work with you. So sometimes we have good projects, but we just don't onboard them because, well, literally it's not meant for us. It is not meant for our partners. So we know that money and time are 2 resources that are running scarce for startup in general, fintech as well, but startup globally, and we don't want you to waste any money or to waste much time. So that's really important to understand. As I was mentioning, academics and institutional are part of it. The government actually initially funded it and sponsored us with 2 million euros to start the initiative, to give it a bit of visibility, to create a dynamic of one-stop shop so that you actually can connect with everyone when you are at the Swave. Global missions, easy. It all starts with an idea, with research, connecting people and creating ecosystems so that we actually can connect large corporates with large corporates, startups with startups, and obviously, which is the heart of our business, connect startups with large corporates. The idea is actually to make the financial sector way better, way more efficient in any way possible. A quick stump on our partners, literally, as I said, because I think it's something pretty interesting given what I said about the recruitment, we're trying to get one of every kind. I don't want to have in my program 20 or 200 members, because obviously when the ecosystem is just too wide, at some point you end up meeting nobody, which is the paradox. What we want is to have a small, close-knit community representing the ecosystem and the different business segments of the ecosystem. So we are working with Société Générale at the time being, working with New Alpha, as Claude said, which is an investment fund dedicated to fintech projects. They actually have two investment funds, running two investment funds that are specialized on the fintech segment. Crédit Municipal de Paris, a tiny bit peculiar. They are interested in sustainable finance as a whole, be it green finance or solidarity or a silver economy, for example. External consulting, they were literally here yesterday, 20 consultants of them. They just want to be very aware of everything that is on the market, and their promise is actually to onboard our projects on their mission, and they are addressing the entire financial sector. It's a consultancy that is monopractice, finance and innovation. Literally, that's just not global finance, just finance and innovation. MasterCard, I'm pretty sure I don't need to introduce them to you guys because they're worldwide known. AG2R La Mondiale and Matmut, that I'm gonna be combining, are representing the French insurers, both on the life and non-life businesses. Pretty interesting to know. The National Lottery actually developed lots of use cases on payment at the time being with their distribution network, 30,000 distributors on the French territory. Edenred is working on meal voucher and mobility voucher, and Kepler Chevalier is a stockbroker. On the other side, I will go just a tiny bit quicker, just so you know we're connected to research institutes, university, as I said, and also to the lab of the French Central Bank, which is kind of cool actually in France, and we can be very proud that the French Central Bank is the first in the world that about 4 years back hired a chief digital officer that is now head of the information systems at the Banque de France and member of the executive committee. It's just showing you actually that even the oldest French institution in terms of finance is pretty modern and open its executive committee to innovative guys that in the beginning were just there in the panorama because, well, somebody told them that it was good to innovate, and well, now he has a seat on the table, so we're very proud of that, and it's really a good signal to the international community. How does it work? If you want to work with us, pretty easy. First of all, you've got to apply to our call for proposal, which there's one a year. Next one, I can break it down for you guys, is gonna be launched on 15th of October 2020. During an event that you didn't mention, Claude, which is Fintech Revolution, that is going to be the station organized by France Fintech. And I would welcome you there actually, because it's a very nice event. Gonna meet with about 3,000 people, French ecosystem, so a few indeed workshops in French, but a lot of English speakers as well. So please be my guest if you want to meet there. I'll be happy to welcome you. Otherwise, the other events that Claude mentioned are cool too, and we're going to be there as well. But the moment we start our call for proposal, it's going to be Fintech Revolution, October 15th. Once you apply to our call for proposal, you're going to have to face the jury. You're going to have to convince. It's a pitching contest, literally. Usually we receive about 100 plus applications. We're taking, as I said, between 10 to 15, max 20 projects a year. So you just have to be better than anyone else and more appealing and able to work with our corporate partners. And then once you're part of it, once you land actually in France, well, then you're gonna have between a year and 3 years, you can stay up to 3 years with us to literally start your business inland if you are not present in France yet. Meet with our partners, work with them and grow. We have something against actually acceleration programs that are just 3 to 6 months. Is usually you get there, time to get on your marks, you meet people once or twice, and then in the end you don't really do much business. What we're really proud of at Swave is, given where our acceleration program is pretty much on the long run, well, literally you have time to meet people several times, to go through contracts, and we are a third party. As a non-for-profit organization at Swave, we're a third party in your relationship between large corporates and startups, obviously, on your side. So that's pretty positive. You can meet a lot of VCs. Actually, Claude, you mentioned that French startups were rising about 1 billion a year, roughly. If you're $500 million per semester, that's roughly 1 billion a year. We are more than 10. We represent actually more than 10% of that investment flow. So we're pretty happy about that. Then you will grow your business, and this is all we want to do. Just a quick overview of the few projects we had actually last year. Many of them have a turnover that is above 7 million for many of them, and more than 10 million euros turnover a year for the biggest. Onfido accepted, because I mean I can't disclose their turnover, but it's much higher because they are actually much bigger in our ecosystem. And last but not least, where are we located? We've got actually at the time being 2,500 square meters in the Great Arch, which is the building you see on the right of the slide. And as I told you, because it's a bit of a preview, we are growing because we're running full capacity. We've been running full capacity for 2 years, so we're very happy about that, obviously. And we decided this year, despite of COVID, that we would actually increase our capacity. We had 240 workstations at the time being. We're growing it to 650 by the beginning of next year. So if you want to join, we'll be very happy to welcome you on that adventure. As you said, Claude, the fintech ecosystem is thriving. Just want to say a word about the global context about it. Obviously, COVID has been a drama for the economy worldwide, obviously, but the fintech in that context is super resisting pretty well. You mentioned the figures, obviously, Claude, of 496 million rose in first semester 2020 by startups. This is proof that actually you can find a lot of opportunities in France, that the VCs are actually interesting in what's happening here. A few months back, I had Goldman Sachs coming to my office telling us literally that they were thinking of relocating their innovation activities in Paris after post-Brexit. Obviously, this is a bit the elephant in the room, but we have to mention it a tiny bit. We want literally, and this is a race we are pretty much winning at the timing. We want to be the new center for financial innovation in mainland Europe, if I may say. So literally, this is where it happens, and I think I'm pretty done with it. I will take the questions in the last 15 minutes. So I will pass it on to you, Enrique, if you want.
Guys, thank you so much. Sorry for the tech problems. But yeah, awesome. Thank you first of all for inviting me here, Claude, and it was super interesting to hear a little bit about your project, Edouard. Sounds super interesting. A little bit less exciting might be the venture side of things. I worked at Speedinvest. Speedinvest is a venture capital fund based out of Vienna, Austria, which might sound a little bit weird because normally all these VCs are based out of London or out of Berlin or San Francisco. But we started in 2011, and it was when a couple of entrepreneurs, a little bit like Edouard, exited their company, and they basically they exited in the US, and they basically came back to Vienna, and they wanted to create the VC they always wanted, a VC that was super operationally involved, a VC that really was there when things went south. Because I think when things go pretty well, it's very easy to be there and to attend all the board meetings and help fundraising. But when the things go a little bit south, it's mainly when you see who is a good investor and who is a bad investor. And I think for those startups that are listening right now, this is mainly, if you can take one takeaway out of this, is select your investors, your partners very carefully. But basically, they started in 2011 with a very small 10 million fund, and then they started scaling. Then in 2015, they raised a 90 million fund, also seed and industry agnostic. And then recently in this February, we raised 190 million. These are the seed and industry agnostic funds, but then we also have the vertical specific funds. We have one for industry 4.0, another one in marketplaces, and then one for fintech. That's where I work. And we now grew more and more. We're not only now a little VC out of Vienna, but we have offices in Munich, in Berlin, in London, in San Francisco, and now even a small office in Paris. So we want to become a really pan-European VC. And here on the right side, I don't know if you guys can read all those logos, but we have invested very heavily on fintech, and yeah, that's these are our portfolio companies. You see a lot of them are also in France, and that's because France is being more and more attractive in the entire fintech ecosystem. Also, due to, as Edouard was saying, this entire Brexit story is making other regions in mainland Europe be more attractive, but also because let's face it, there is a lot of good universities in Paris, a lot of smart people, and yeah, basically a good history of banking history, so to say. So that's why we're looking very deeply into Paris, and yeah, and we're very vertically specific. What that means that I only do fintech, and that's basically gives us the edge. The team of fintech, we're around 9 people. That gives us I would say a little bit a USP towards other more generalistic funds, because it takes less time to analyze a company, to help with regulation. All the fintech companies, they face one big thing, that's regulation. If it's the French one is ACPR, I think, or FCA in the UK, or you name it. There's a lot of regulation involved, and if you already help the company getting one license, and another company also needs a similar license, it's much easier. So yeah, about what I do, fintech, as I was mentioning, in terms of stage, this is something that a lot of VCs are very focused on one stage. We're early stage investors, which means that we invest from pre-seed to Series B. So from 250 to 500K to 4 million. We can lead, we cannot lead, we can do whatever is needed in order to help the company if we're very convinced. And I think that is a good takeaway out of today as well. And our geography is mainly Europe and emerging markets. We've been starting to invest. Actually, there's one portfolio company of ours that's called Predictos Fair Money. They do B2C loans in Nigeria, and their entire tech team is in Paris. But yeah, and we have been investing a lot. Here it says 36 deals in fintech, but I think we have more. I think we have about 50. So we're quite active, and yeah, we like to we basically like fintech a lot, and we're doubling down in the coming years. And I think this is a trend that we'll see more and more. I think a lot of VCs have realized now that fintech is financial services is one of the biggest asset classes worldwide, and revolutionizing financial services, reinventing financial services, and reshaping it basically is where the biggest piece of the pie is, so to say, and that's why a lot of investors are doubling down there. So I think it's a trend that we will continue seeing, and that's also our thesis as a fund. when Claude contacted me, he basically asked me to give my perspective a little bit on what fintech is for us, how we invest, what our investment thesis is, and so we prepared these slides that are very generalistic, but might be interesting for you. So as I was saying before, there is a lot of noise in the market, a lot of money in the market, and consequently there is a lot of people jumping and trying to create a fintech. So that means that there is a lot of noise out there, and you have to be able to differentiate out of that crowded, noisy fintech market the good companies, the companies that are really gonna make the difference. No, so we see two big waves. Okay, fintech, what we call fintech 1.0 and fintech 2.0. No, and fintech 1.0 for us is more, imagine something that already exists. Okay, for instance, if we take neobanking as an example, consumer banking is something that already existed before, but there was a change in technology, smartphones, and people starting to use smartphones more and interacting with it more and more, makes you question why shouldn't be banking as easy as scrolling through Instagram. So the first wave of fintech was this basically front end, a very nice UX UI, a good distribution of financial services, and also business models that are completely innovative. And if I think about N26 and Revolut, which by the way I think they have more than 1 million users, these, they're not reinventing the wheel. It's something that already exists, but they're adapting to the 21st century. Okay, so they're disrupting basically the entire financial ecosystem. No, and it's a vertical, so you basically focus on one thing, and this is a trend that still exists. No, and then there is the fintech 2.0, because I think a good example for this, I think it was Eduardo, he mentioned Onfido, and I think this is a great example for Onfido. So all these changes in fintech 1.0 and people using more online banking, payments, I know a checkout financing solution like Klarna, and so on and so forth, makes you need also, like, makes you require also reinventing infrastructure and middle layers. What do I mean with that? I mean, for instance, KYC, AML. So maybe 30, 40 years ago, the KYC, you went to a branch, they looked at your ID verification, and they looked and said, okay, this is you. But given that now, when you open a bank account, or when you, I know, go into Crowdcube in order to, I don't know if they have KYC, I think they have, and in order to register as a user, you have to take a picture of your ID and show that it's you. This is something that before was not there, but this is something that is needed for every financial institution, be it BNP Paribas with their new banking solution, or a random crowdfunding solution or investment platform. So this is what we call with fintech 2.0, because they have a core product that is dependent also on fintech 1.0, but it's really something disruptive, and it has more to do with collaboration with other fintech, with financial institutions, and with the stakeholders in financial services, and less with disruption. There is also disruption, don't get me wrong, but and there's also it's more horizontal. Going back to Onfido, you can use Onfido for insurance companies, for neobanks, for traditional banks, for investment products, and so on and so forth. I hope this is more or less clear. And other fintech opportunities that we see is, so we also have a differentiation between core finance, tech fin, and platform data infrastructure. Platform data infrastructure I already explained a little bit, and it was this last point that I made. But core finance, Core finance is things like, think about factoring, or for instance, our portfolio company Billy, or Fair Money, which I was saying before. It's something, a financial product that already exists. It's nothing, you're not reinventing the wheel, it's lending, but you're using new technology in order to put it on top and give a better solution, a 10x better solution that people love. For instance, an example, we have a portfolio company, Coin in Brazil, and what these guys do, they do B2C lending, and basically they're able to look into your phone, and well, not able to look into your phone, but they're able to know before they give out a loan if how many gambling apps you have or how many investing apps you have. So obviously, if you have a lot of gambling apps, it's not very good to give you money, and if you have a lot of investing apps, it means that you're more reliable. TechFin is the second point here. As I was saying, applying tech as an enabler and less fin, so that means more disruption and offering a faster a faster solution, maybe 10x faster, 10x cheaper, etc., etc. And then platform data infrastructure. Here also there is a point of embedded finance. Embedded finance is something that's also we're seeing quite a lot now in fintech, and is very interesting. Basically offering a solution that might not be a fintech, and then offering fintech products on top. And that's why everyone says now every startup is a fintech, which is something I really like. But just for you guys to remember, if there's any startups there, feel free to contact me. I would love to be in touch with you. When you're looking for an investor, please keep in mind what added value they can give you. There's a lot of money in the market, and you have to, just the same way the VCs have to choose the right startup, it has to happen vice versa. Look for someone that can help you with operating partners. We have a couple of operating partners that have been ex-entrepreneurs, people that created Interhip, Payon, LoopPay, PaySafe, etc., and people, VCs that can help you with introductions to relevant players if you're in the B2B side, and so on and so forth. Understand that it's a very long journey, and we've been trying to show it here with this graph. It's a very long journey, and you might be starting in pre-seed to raise, but it's hopefully, if it becomes very successful, it will take 10, 13, 15 years. I think the average is 13 in order to IPO. So yeah, look for someone that is valuable, that helps you with operating partners, and that have a lot of know-how. If you want my contacts, yeah, here's my email address. Feel free to send me an email, and we can take it from there. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Enrique. So now we'll start the Q&A sessions, and we have first questions for Edouard. So Mastercard is one of the Swave's partner. What benefits has this partnership generated so far for the fintechs startups located in your accelerator, and what to expect from Mastercard next?
And the second part of the question is, I got the first part, but the second part?
Yeah. So what benefits has this partnership generated so far for the fintech startups located in your accelerator, and what to expect from Mastercard next?
So Mastercard is, well, as you said, first of all, Claude, there is a strong expertise in payments in France. This is translates into the figures you showed at some point in the little survey that you sent about the subsegment that rose more money. So it was very important for us to have a partner such as Mastercard or other specialists, could have been Visa, for example. Why we chose Mastercard is because Mastercard is not the front runner on the French market, so they are very active in terms of innovation. they're pretty aggressive in their support to startups. And to be very blunt, it generated a lot of deals because most of our payment solutions are now clients of MasterCard at very good rate, obviously. But it goes further than this. If it was just, okay, let's provide MasterCard cards to the fintech and the Swave, it would be a tiny bit short. Thing is, they are very committed in shedding light on the startups that are there. So I do have a few examples, but I'm going to focus on just one, a startup called Xalis or Xalis in Wolof, which is a neobank, because it was a bit of the theme of today for teenagers that came to the Swave, and literally Diana, who was the founder, had nothing. She had been working at General Inspection of Société Générale for years, but when she came to us in front of a jury, she had literally just a bunch of slides and no team, no product, no nothing. After 2 years now, she has not only a team, but also she rose capital thanks to the support of MasterCard, even though they were not investing themselves, but they gave her very good deal. They helped her structure her business. They gave her visibility. She's now actually on the cover of this week Challenge magazine as one of the French top entrepreneurs, just next to Thierry Breton, the former Minister of Economic Affairs and now the European Commission. So none of this would have been possible if she had been by herself. So I'd like to say that probably we did a bit of something for her also. And MasterCard really helped her. They put money on the table. They put her everywhere they could, and they have a huge network worldwide. So that's very, very interesting. And not only is she visible, but obviously, and this is the most important part, she now has a lot of users, and that's really the big pain points for neobanks is customer acquisition. This visibility.
And she's the personality, really. She's
so that's the kind of thing they do. What we can wait from next? Well, same thing, but more. Actually, they committed to us. No, but they committed to us in January. We signed a long-term partnership, 3 years partnerships, which in a startup life is eternity, 3 years. And they put more money on the table, more teams on the table. So everybody in the French and European teams is committed. So that's very positive.
Okay, very good. So second question, we have one for Enrique. Would Speedinvest invest in early stage digital central bank currency startups? So startup working on the new digital central bank currency, which could be EU or pound or.
Now I'm unmuted. I think it's a good question. I think we're open to evaluate every opportunity that we got. So I think at the end of the day, there's a lot of factors that come in, and I think that if we believe in the vision and the vision is more or less reachable, or even if it's a bold dream, we like to back those as well. So if we like the founders, we like their vision and how they envision to do this, so all the path towards that, we like to back it. So 100% yes.
Okay.
Look deeply into that. I'm not committing any money there, but
yeah, of course, it's the principle. And another question is for Edouard. Would you accept a company specialized in crypto assets at Le Swave?
Yes and no. It depends.
Okay.
It depends. I have nothing against crypto and nothing against blockchain, but we have a slight tendency in the startup business to have some of buzzwords like blockchain and crypto and hope VCs are just going to come for it. It depends on your use case. If there is a use case, if there is a market, sure, we had some actually in the past, and we've got several. Actually, 10% of our portfolio is blockchain technology companies. So literally yes, but you've got to have a good use case. I just don't want to have miners here. It would be worthless in terms of collaboration with a large corporate if it was just that.
Okay. So another one for you, Edouard. Do you think there is room for new international neobanks in France? So as I said, there was about 20 players. Yeah,
it depends on the type of market you're addressing, because so right now, last week there was, or a week or 10 days ago, no, last week actually, the Société Générale bought Shine, a neobank for freelancers, for example. Price hasn't been disclosed, but the been leaks saying it was about 100 million euros kind of deal in the surroundings. For a company that was 3 or 4 years old and had 70,000 users, which is not a lot technically for that price. No. Thing is, if you get the right idea and if you're on the good business segments, there is room. But don't go for neobanks for entrepreneurs and don't go for neobanks for teenagers, because those segments are a tiny bit crowded at the time being. But if you get the sweet spot, banks are literally looking for new ideas to generate leads. So yeah.
Thank you. And question for Enrique. Green seems to be the new black, what we read in the financial press. Do you feel a market push for sustainable finance projects, Enrique? And is Paris well positioned for you on that subject?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I agree with that statement. I think there is a lot of involvement between green technology and financial services. I mean, there is companies that use your payment data in order to see your global CO2 footprint. There are companies that help you to invest in renewable energy or green energy. So I think we're seeing a trend there. I really like the trend because I also like that what I do has a positive impact on society. I think we will see it more and more because you gotta face it. Millennials are getting a little bit older, and these guys are going to be the new decision makers, and they care more about their planet, which is good. So I think it's a trend that's here to stay, and I think France is very well positioned for this. I mean, all the I don't know the exact names, but there's a lot of initiatives from the French from the French government in order to push these things, which I think is just it's brilliant to do energy.
And another question for Edouard. What kind of green finance projects are based at Le Swave? And is it growing from batch to batch, from year to year in your accelerator?
I wish it were. There is room for improvement in the green finance ecosystem. We had several players, so we get actually two. Well, more than that, but two very significant players. One is called Pay Green. Actually, they are on all panoramas, and they are literally helping you to use your credit card when you're paying in online or in stores to raise money to fight against climate change, and they fund associations and movements through the top rounding of your everything you buy. And we also have in a very different world insurtech that won the prize of insurtech of the year. First 2 years ago they won the Fintech for Tomorrow challenge with our partners at Finance for Tomorrow and Sustainable Finance, and last year they became the insurtech of the year, the French insurtech of the year. It's called Descartes Underwriting, and they are literally trying to establish insurance policies on climate disasters, how to price climate disaster, how to hedge against climate risk.
Okay, awesome. And a question for Enrique. With which VC do you co-invest on a regular basis? Because as you put a small ticket, I imagine you are used to co-investing with other VCs, or?
Yeah, I mean, we co-invest, we lead, we co-lead, we like to lead most of the time, but oh my God, this is a very, very difficult question for me to answer. I think it depends on the region. There are some players that are most suited for an investment. I mean, for instance, you showed before for France. I mean, you guys have very good VCs from Blackfin to Briga. I think you Partech as well. There is a lot. I I've invested, for instance, with Briga, and it was an absolute pleasure. So, but maybe for another region, there might be someone better suited.
Yeah, no, that was focused on the French region, on France. My question. So thank you for your answer. And so Société Générale CIB launched in 2018 the first batch of global markets incubator with the Swave. After 18 months, what concrete results could you share with us today, Edouard? And how many POC were converted into contracts with Société Générale CIB?
So the global market incubator. No. Well, I'm not gonna give you every details, obviously, but just a few things, which is already significant. Indeed, global market incubators was started in summer 2018. It was the first recruitment, and we actually launched the program officially in 2020. The idea on the monocorporate program, short-term period, 6 months, was to find startups that would be able literally to change the business of market activities at Société Générale. We recruited 5 startups that started late January 2019. After 6 months, the proof of concept was established for most of them, and it turns into production and even co-investment sometimes in the projects for 4 projects out of 5. So that's a very good transformation rate.
80% rate, yeah.
80%. So we're super happy about that. Very significant and highly efficient. We're very, very proud of it.
And which goals has Société Générale in this GMI? And when is the next call to apply for candidates?
It goes in many different directions because it's very open-minded. On the first 2 batches, because we're now on the second batch in the middle. Obviously, the COVID-19 slowed down a tiny bit the experimentation along the last 3 months, but we are going there. It goes on a wide range of solutions. Some of them were even on NLP, how to extract information, non-conventional information in documents through OCR. So could have many different way to apply this solution and the use cases. Some of them are in big data, some on tracking errors when you're booking deals in training rooms, for example. So they are very open-minded in that. The most important for them is to find the right use case.
Okay.
And next call for proposal, sorry, is going to be was supposed to be in fall and might be a tiny bit postponed till end of the year.
End of the year. Okay. And a question for Enrique. How has the sanitary crisis affected your investment in early stage startups? Is it any different now than before the crisis?
I would answering that. I would say €1 today is a little bit more expensive than it was maybe 6-7 months ago. So I think the bar is just higher. I think we're still investing. We have invested like we just closed a 190 million fund in February. So we want to deploy the money, but we just have a higher bar. So if the company is good, we will invest. But it has changed the environment. I will not lie.
So you would say, in a nutshell, you would take less risk on, projects or business projects that are not so convincing?
No. I wouldn't say that. I would say, this is still venture capital, so you're always taking risks. But if I'm investing in Series B, I would look for a clear path towards profitability. And maybe 1 year ago, a lot of VCs were not looking that much into that. And so looking into unit economics is very important. And having clear that it's not all about growth. There's also creating a product. There's also a monetization. And yeah, there are more things that you have to look except for growth. That's number one. And number two is, it's there is a lot of startups right now struggling raising money, and that makes it just a very comfortable position for us, basically to select the best, to cherry pick the winners.
Okay. So this is the end of the Q&A sessions. So thank you for the listeners to listen, and thank you for the panelists to have joined us. And so there will be other webinars, and so listen to us. And thank you all.
Thank you so much,
now.
Claude. Thank you, Enrique.
Yeah. Thank you, Enrique.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye. Bye-bye, everyone.